Welcome. It's Thursday lunchtime already. It seems to really fly, doesn't it? And this week I have the privilege of hosting with my lovely fellow blondes. And unfortunately, we've got apologies from the fabulous Sam, who is unable to join us today because she's got something exciting that she's doing with Santander. But she sends her love and she will be with us in person next week. But we are joined by the lovely Gwenno Dafydd. Have I said that right? Possibly not. I'm so sorry.
That'll pass. It's okay. I'm sorry, I'm not a blonde. I'm going gloriously grey.
I love it. Gloriously grey works for us. And we'll come to Gwenno a little bit later. But before we do, I'm going to ask the other lovely ladies, what's been your week? What's been showing up for you? And I'm going to start off, please, with the lovely Carol-Anne.
Oh, thank you, Kim. Well, hi, everybody. I've had a good week. And the newsletter, I've got a lot of background noise. Can you hear that? Oh, that might be better. I did an open newsletter to Boris saying, Boris, where are you? As an inspirational coach myself, where is our leader giving this country some prime motivational messages saying, well done for the resilience this country has shown. Well done for hanging in there. Well done for almost getting to the finish line and keeping our chins up. That's what we need. So, Boris, if you're looking for a life coach.
I love it. I love that. And it's so true, isn't it? You know, we've done nearly a year now, and I know that we're coming out the other side and it's exciting. But we sometimes need to be able to take that moment to go, look how well we've done. If somebody told us a year ago, you're going to go into pretty much lockdown for a full year and you're going to start thinking it's perfectly normal to walk around and see masks where you used to see smiles and to not be able to see your friends and family and hug them, we would have gone, don't be so ridiculous. That sounds like something that's been written by either The Simpsons or George Orwell. And yet we've lived it, we've been in it, and we're coming out the other side. So I think you're right. We so need to be proud and take that moment. And I love that you've championed Boris. Way to go, Carol-Anne.
I want to be his life coach. I just putting it out there. Number 10, listen, I'm up for it.
I love it. I think you would be amazing in that role. Penny, my lovely, how about you?
Well, I think I'd like to be his hairdresser, actually. Oh my God, please. I mean, I know we shouldn't judge people by the way they look, should we? But no. I do want to cut his hair. I mean, you could do it at home, couldn't you? But that's not what my week's been. So I'm at my year end. I'm not at the end of my tether, but I'm at our financial year end, which is interesting because that really does encompass the whole of the year. And it made me reflect a bit when I went back to March, because as some of you know, I've taken great risk in business, building assets, and had some really turbulent times. And when we started our mastermind, which you lovely ladies I met you through, I thought I'd gone really safe. Starting a mastermind, there wasn't anything hugely innovative about creating something where 12 people meet offline. And then March last year, I couldn't believe that yet again a business could be so challenged. And there's a message in that for all of us. But I'm just looking at our year-end numbers and thinking there's something about the fact that, adversity makes you innovate. And if you really do handle adversity well. And so I suppose my thoughts this week has been around how incredible it is how many of us have innovated. And I'm proud of myself. I often say that, I'm proud of what we've done, because we've built a whole new business model in this period, which is one that we're going to be really excited about as we go forward, including the masterminds that we will continue to do when we can meet again. So I suppose that's my message is, when you're reflecting on the last year, what did you innovate in your life, both your self-development and your business?
Oh, I love that. And you so should be proud of it. And you constantly show us that resilience and that determination and that innovation in business, which is great. And I think, for me, one of the things that I'm learning is that we grow through our pain only when we go through our pain. We can't avoid it. So if we want to grow, we want to develop, we've got to face those challenges and say, what lesson are you teaching me? What is it I need to learn? And then how do I evolve? And you do that so beautifully. And it's lovely to hear you actually say you're proud of yourself. That is amazing to hear. And we all need to do a bit more of that, don't we? We all need to be able to recognize when we've done well for ourselves, or when we've achieved something, or even when we've just, do you know, sometimes just adulting for 12 hours is an achievement for me. But when I get to the end of it, I'm pretty proud because on certain days that can be enough, I think. But enough of that. And now over to our fabulous guest. So I have the absolute pleasure of introducing you to Gwenno Dafydd. She is a breakthrough master public speaking coach. She's been a professional broadcaster since 1980, has over 24 years experience as a leadership coach, and she's also the published author of Socket Tuum Sister, which is a book about breaking through the glass ceiling of comedy, and has her own one-woman show. What else can I say, Gwenno? I'm going to hand over to you for you to share some of your journey with us, please.
Well, thank you very, very much, Kim. It's an honour to be here. I am really chuffed to bits, and it's great to be with like-minded women. My journey started in West Wales. I grew up there. I was going to be a physical education teacher. I was passionate about running, and I went to college to be a PE teacher. And within 3 months, I had my first big issue with my health. I had to change direction. I was brokenhearted. So as we've talked about some of the themes of resilience, and one of the things you said, which I thought was really good, was grow through your pain. You've got to go through pain. Well, I've certainly done that throughout my life in so many different environments, and I've had to encounter big changes in my life. I think the first one really was when I was 18, and I realized that I wasn't going to be a physical education teacher because I had a condition called chondromalacia patella, which meant that which I had soft kneecaps, which is an arthritic condition. So instead of going off to have a teaching career, I ended up being very lost, very lonely, and very distraught about my future because I didn't know what I was going to do. And all I'd wanted to do from the age of 11 was to be a physical education teacher. So having got my certificate of education as a drama teacher, I absolutely loved drama and was awfully keen on comedy because I'd always made people laugh. I was always a performer. I was a performer in school, in lots of concerts and all sorts of issues like that. But I never saw myself as having a future in performance. However, roll on 45 years now, and I've had a career in 2 different directions. I've always had my performance, my creativity, and I've also had the education and skill sharing. So I trained and got my qualification as a teacher, a drama teacher. After being a drama teacher, I was still very confused. I didn't want to be a drama teacher, but I didn't know what I wanted out of life. So I went to Belgium and I was an au pair there. And I stayed on for 5 years and started performing in the street initially. Then I started singing in restaurants, got concerts, got gigs. I made a record there and was on Belgian television, whilst at the same time teaching English as a foreign language. I came back to Britain in 1983 when my brother was dying, and again, more pain. However, it made me decide that I actually wanted to stay and spend more time on my performance and stay back here in Britain. So since that time, I've been in Britain, and on my creative side, I worked as television, radio, films, live performances, cabaret, and theatre and education. I directed theatre and education at a time when women weren't particularly doing that. I've always been a passionate feminist, but I realized in my mid-30s that having a daughter with a husband who worked away a lot, that my performing life wasn't conducive to a family life. So I went to have a master's degree, and I did it in women's studies because I was a passionate feminist, and learned all about the barriers stopping women from progressing and what the glass ceiling was all made up of. And that was when I started writing my thesis, which finally and ultimately became this book. Now, so I spent 20 years on the book, and it's got 94 interviews in it with people who were involved in comedy, 65 of those who are female stand-up comics. It's an analysis and deconstruction of the glass ceiling. It could have been of any environment. I just chose comedy because that's my passion. It could have been education, politics, engineering, anything, medicine, anything. The glass ceiling is ultimately the same wherever you work. And as a result of doing my master's degree, I then became involved in equality and diversity, and ended up being campaign manager for Opportunity 2000 throughout Wales, and then was headhunted by the Welsh Development Agency, where I went and worked as an equality expert for 12 years, working with chief executives in companies throughout Wales about equality and diversity issues. And then as a result of that, I realized that what I actually loved more than anything was coaching. Got my ILM level 7 equivalent. And then for the last 12 years or so, I've just been working predominantly as a leadership coach. So I work at all sorts of different levels. But what I do is I combine everything together, all of my performance experiences. And I have developed a methodology through lockdown. And you were talking earlier, Penny, about how you've innovated during this time. And my innovative skills have enabled me to develop a foolproof method of coaching anybody anywhere in the entire world on how to speak in public, whether that is in front of a podcast, in front of a Zoom networking meeting, or whether in person. And that is foolproof. So I've been developing that. And so it means now I can work with anyone, anywhere, anytime, any place, as long as you've got a nice web contact. I'm still spinning all my plates with my book, with writing songs. I've got my one-woman show, and I'd taken the one-woman show, which is called Passionate About Piaf. She is my role model. I believe as women, we have to have really, really strong role models that we can identify with. And she was always someone I identified with, coming back from that point where I sang on the streets. She was a French singer who did that. She was the very first woman to enter into the French Songwriters Guild. And she's been alongside me throughout my life. So the show is called Passionate About Piaf. I did it in the West End about 2 years ago. Had a sellout show, standing ovation, 2 encores. Everything was going well. I'd got a beautiful production company behind me. We'd done a really wonderful video. We were getting gigs in. We had one in Cheltenham. No, not in Cheltenham, in the Cotswolds, in Swansea. I was headlining in Fishguard. And I'd done one final gig on the pier in Penarth, which is not far from here. And COVID hit. So this is where I'm at now.
Amazing. Amazing. You can see how you do a one-woman show. Look at that. That was like
the hands, they all go.
2-minute speech. It was incredible.
Oh, yeah.
One of the things I'm really curious about is whenever I watch a comedian, I think, God, that must be the hardest job in the world. I just cannot imagine what the inner dialogue has to be to give you the confidence to stand up, especially as must ultimately happen for people if the audience doesn't react. How do you help people to get into, when you did it, and how do people get into the mindset of having that resilience?
Well, with comedy, I think what Joan Rivers said to me, she said, comedy is comedy, funny is funny. So you're either funny or you're not. So that is basically the payback. Why do we do it? Heaven knows. I do it because I absolutely love making people laugh. I love making people laugh more than anything. I really, really do. Well, I quite like talking as well, actually. But where do you get the strength to do it? Something has told you within yourself that you can make people laugh. So you're either funny or you're not. And I've always been funny, and I've always made people laugh. And to stand up on that stage and for the ultimate test, which is, can I make this audience laugh, it does take immense guts. And I stood in Galerie de la Reine in Brussels with a little basket in front of my feet, singing a cappella when I was a busker, street singer. And actually doing stand-up comedy is way scary.
So how do you help someone get that courage? And because that courage, if you can if you can have that courage inside your body for that, it must help you to be able to have the courage to do so many things. How do you help people when you're doing, say, leadership coaching? How do you help people to achieve that courage in life?
Well, first and foremostly, I don't coach people in stand-up comedy. I go on a training course every week with somebody called Rob Hitchmuth, and he's fantastic. I don't coach people in stand-up comedy. I coach people in leadership skills, and I believe, I'll come back to your question. I'm not trying to avoid it, but I do believe that to be a great public speaker, to be a great leader, you have to be a great public speaker. And the only way you're going to become a great public speaker is to go out there and do it. That's the only way. That is the absolute only way of becoming a great public speaker, is just getting out there and doing it. So if you're so minded to want to make people laugh, you just got to get out there and do it. You've got to do it and do it and do it until you've incorporated all of those things, which are great material, because that's what we spend an awful lot of time on in the course with Rob, is we're writing all the time. And it's not the writing, it's the rewriting. So the courage to do it is basically you've had to wade through some serious shit, So at the age of 18, having to realize that the world that I'd anticipated just disappeared when that surgeon said to me, if you don't give up physical education, you will be walking with a stick by the time you're 30. That's a very serious thing to have to contend with at the age of 18. And I felt totally unsupported because I don't think people realized how dreadfully unhappy I was. So I grew up in Pembrokeshire, and West Wales was my play area. It was my environment, was rocks, the sea. I used to climb rocks. I broke a horse in when I was 14. I've always been pretty ballsy as a woman. So the only way, as you know, as coaches, the only way you're going to actually develop is if you keep pushing out your comfort zone. So in response to your initial question, which was, how do you give people the courage? You can't give anybody courage. They have to grow it themselves. They have to just say, well, I desperately want to make people laugh. Why? Because it makes you feel brilliant. It makes you feel brilliant. I have a friend, and he's a stand-up comic and has been for 45 years, a professional stand-up comic in Los Angeles, in what is the worst and most challenging environment, probably comedically, in the entire world. And basically, he just does it because it makes him happy. It's made him happy. He's made other people happy. And that's the payback. It makes you happy. So I hope I've answered your question.
It does. No, it's very, and I think you're absolutely right. I saw Caroline, you're nodding away there about courage, because you probably thought when I asked the question, it was a naive question, really, because you can't give someone courage, can you?
No, but you can develop your courage muscle. And
absolutely.
The more you do something, it does get easy. Because if I said to you now, climb up the highest diving board and I'll give you £100,000, and you'd say that's the worst thing. The first climb up that ladder, you'd probably be shaking. The second, third climb. By the 50th climb, right, let's just get this. And you've overcome your fear. And it is repetition. That's what does it.
And it's moving out your comfort zone. You've got to constantly stretch the comfort zone, because that's, you've got three zones, which is comfortable, then a challenge, and then panic. You've got to start pushing out to the panic zones as often as you possibly can, and that's where that's life begins, at the end of your comfort zone. It really genuinely does. So if you want to grow as a human being, you've got to constantly challenge yourself. You've got to keep pushing. You've got to keep challenge yourselves. I'm a technophobe. I absolutely hate it. But I'm now doing a Clubhouse event every Friday, because I know that if I want to get my message out, or whatever my messages are, then I've got to find another audience, and I've got to fish in another pond. Because the pond I'm fishing in, there's too many people there that are too similar in some ways, and they've already decided who the rod is that they're going to attach themselves to. I want to fish, in bigger seas. So I know that to actually find that audience, I've got to take big risks. So I'm risking myself by going and doing a clubhouse, which, by the way, I'm going to give it a little plug. It's called Sock It to My Sister, and it's all about female empowerment, and it's based on a lot of the content of the book. 3:30 every Friday, and I'm doing this with somebody called Dr. Shalini, and she's from Minnesota. So, I am really doing things that I feel pretty uncomfortable with. However, by number 3, which is this Friday, I'm going to be okay, because I've done the first one and I know it wasn't that bad. So it's constantly get out of your comfort zone, push yourself all the time.
Yeah, we experienced that, didn't we, ladies, when we started this?
Oh, I'm
How
sure.
many shows ago? 25 shows ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did the whole in the headlights, didn't we?
Yeah, great to hear you're doing Clubhouse. I'm launching my room, actually, my Clubhouse room, which I'm looking for guests, ladies, on Monday. And I know what you mean. It is getting out of that comfort zone all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So
when you're in that place, though, because we can all have those moments, can't we, where we're just like, I'm not sure I can do this, and I'm going to say now, I used to think I was a real technophobe, which I will say laughingly, because apparently I'm a techno geek, and it turns out I actually love tech, and I was just fibbing. But psychologically, I really thought I was a technophobe. So what advice could you give us that says, when you're facing that thing that you don't know anything about, and that you're nervous that you're not going to be very good at, or is something that just doesn't hit your passion? How do you not find the courage, but what steps do you take to actually start to learn about it, to mitigate perhaps some of those confidence concerns?
Well, you all know about the elephants, don't you? How to eat an elephant in spoonfuls. Obviously, you can eat an elephant in spoonfuls. And in fact, I actually wrote some poems for my daughter, because she was, and which were published in a book, for a children's book, about how to break down the tasks. You've just got to break them down into easily manageable chunks. But saying that, I will often, I'm one of these wild water swimmers. And so I think it's again, what you were saying earlier, Carol Ann, was that, you've got to be brave. You've got to just go for it, in the same way that there's no point standing on the beach and thinking, ooh, that's cold. Ooh, I don't know how I'm going to feel when I get in there. You just got to go, I run into the sea because I know it's going to be cold. But once I'm in there, it's fabulous. It's really fabulous. And then the next time, I don't need to be worried about it. I can do it. So it really is. You've just got to grasp the nettle. You've got to just say, okay, I used to run a radio show, which was called Mac and Welshie Woman. And I was introduced as Gwenno Dafydd, the Welshest woman in the world, which was great fun. But my big thing was that I was going to make a mistake, because when you're running, it's called running the desk. So you've got to, drive the desk. So when you're doing a radio program, you've got to drive the desk. And I still hate it now, and I hate to do it. But the name of the station manager, he used to, and this was live radio, and they also had a feed, so people could see me panicking. So I wasn't just the duck on the top with the feet flapping; they could see everything. And he used to just say, he said, "Nobody died," and that's what you've got to bring it down to, that thing that actually, in the sum total of everything, is pretty inconsequential. Nobody died. Why are you doing something? If you're doing it because you want to improve your communication skills, well, accept that you're going to make mistakes, and just accept that you're going to, that it won't be easy initially. But as you said earlier on, you will get better, because not one of us was able to run when we started crawling. Not one of us. And that would have been deemed totally impossible. But we all walk around without thinking twice about it. Here we are. For me, my aim at the beginning of lockdown was that I was going to be able to actually get myself onto Zoom by myself. If someone had told me, well, Gwenno, do you know what you're going to be running Zoom rooms, and you'll have done Zoom presentations, and you will be doing a room on Clubhouse, I just wouldn't have believed them. So it is that eat the elephant one spoonful at a time. Look at, it's an unusual sort of coaching methodology, which is begin with the end in mind. What's your aim? Why am I doing this? What's the purpose of this task? And be quite clear about what the purpose is, and ask for help. Do you know, all I have to do if I'm stuck with something is I just put a message up on Facebook saying, oh, how do I do this? There's loads of people who want to help. People love helping. So always reach out for help.
I love it. Great advice. And I'm just conscious that we're heading very fast to the half hour. It flies. We get to this every single week going, where has the time gone? But if I could ask you to just share one tip for people right now, whether that's in business or in life, if you could share just one thing with them, what would it be?
Never, ever, ever give up. If you believe passionately in anything, whatever that is, I wanted to create an anthem for St. David's Day, which is our patron saint day. I decided I was going to do it. It's been 15 years of hard graft, but I've done it. Never, ever give up. Whatever boundaries or barriers you come across, go under them, over them, round them, or through them, but don't hurt people on the way.
I love it. Such amazing advice. And you're right. As long as we're not hurting others, we should just go for it. Penny, my lovely, how about you? Could you give us one top tip, please?
Yeah, I started the show by saying, that I've reflected on the past and, on this past year, my year end this month. But I'm also spending some time thinking about when we come out of lockdown. And so I would just say, a tip for you now is, what are you going to hold on to that you've discovered about yourself during lockdown when we do go out? Because I'm getting a sense from a lot of people, including myself, almost this feeling of, I don't want to go back to the way life was. And I need to therefore think about, what am I wanting to hold on to? Because there's some great stuff that I've experienced about myself and life during this period. So maybe as a tip, think about those things going forward.
Oh, I love that. And you're right, we've learned so much about ourselves and we've reevaluated, haven't we? So making sure that we don't lose that, but we choose what we're going to create as our new life. I love that. Great tip. Carol-Ann, my lovely.
Well, yes, thank you, Kim. Taking Gwenno's lead here, I think, I like to have a laugh. It's to try everyone. I make somebody laugh today. It makes everyone feel relaxed. It lowers your cortisol levels. It gives you a nice pink flush. And it's like the other day I was thinking, I wonder why that frisbee is getting closer and bigger. And then it hit me. Sorry, that's a good laugh of the day. Now I've got more to do. Now pass it on, Thank you. Thank you. You can have that. So try and make someone laugh, even if it's something really stupid. Do a silly dance in the kitchen. Say something funny on Zoom. We all need a laugh right now. Spread the good medicine out there. Thank you.
I love that. I was so going to use that to try and make people laugh. But I think you're right. When we do have a laugh, when we can just joke at things, then everything seems just less serious, doesn't it? You can kind of look back on it and go, really? Was I really worried about that? Like, what is the worst that could happen? And I've lived my life pretty much with what's the worst that can happen and can I live with it? And as long as the answer is yes, then take the risk. So I think that would probably be my tip is, if this lockdown has taught us anything, it's taught us that we can't control things. So all we can control is what's happening to us right now. And therefore just take that risk. Step out there and go, what's the worst that can happen? Can I live with it? And then
Nobody died.
Absolutely. Nobody died. So amazing. And if you would like to join us next week and be in Gwenno's seat, then please do get in touch with us at www.businessblondes.tv. It's always a delight to be here. My thanks, Gwenno, for being such a fun guest and for sharing your story with us. And Carol-Ann and Penny, as always, my loves, delight to catch up. And don't we just have the best job that we actually get to share our friendship and stories with everybody that's listening to us? So on that note, Have an amazing week, everybody. Make people laugh, stay happy, stay safe, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.